My stepson hid a painful secret, and I couldn't ignore it. What extreme actions would you take if you discovered a secret so dark and forbidden that it upended the fundamental beliefs you held about your family? Never did I envision myself in the hallway at 2 a.m., my heart pounding violently against my chest, constricting my throat as I stood frozen, captivated by the eerie glow of a laptop screen spilling through the narrow crack of my stepson's bedroom door. The house was shrouded in an eerie stillness, my husband lost in a deep, vulnerable slumber down the corridor, blissfully ignorant of the impending tempest that threatened to obliterate our lives. I should have turned back, fled from the darkness, and pretended I never knew it was there. Yet I held back, and that singular decision, that momentary weakness in my determination, obliterated everything. It was a night unlike any other, one that commenced with the slightest whisper of sound, a barely perceptible flicker of movement that would unleash a torrent of chaos. As I rose from the shadows, the stillness of the night enveloped me. My bare feet whispered against the polished hardwood, each step a silent echo of the tension that hung in the air, urging me forward to quench an unrelenting thirst. The house lay shrouded in an oppressive silence, a heavy stillness that cloaked the world in the dead of night, where dark secrets found their refuge. Yet, amidst this suffocating quiet, a subtle yet insistent rhythmic sound emanated from Logan's room, piercing through the tension and seizing my attention with an unsettling urgency. At just 25, my stepson has been living under our roof, ostensibly saving for his place. He was a good kid, or so I once thought. I steeled myself, convinced that my intentions were noble. Maybe he was suffering, maybe he needed help. But as I peered through the barely open door, the scene that unfolded before me froze me in place, a chilling grip of disbelief wrapping around my heart. The piercing glow of his laptop screen illuminated his face, exposing a look of intense focus as his fingers flew across the keys with urgency. Then came the video, the devastating revelation that shattered my very being. It was not just a video, it was a haunting mirror of our existence, of the tumultuous bond between my husband and me. Intimate moments that should have been locked away in the sacred vault of a marriage. Recordings I never knew existed sent a wave of nausea crashing through me. The glass of water in my trembling hand quaked with the weight of my horror. How long had he been under their watchful gaze? And what dark secrets had brought him into their possession? And what could possibly be more unsettling than that? You inquire. I should have screamed, shaken my husband awake, and stormed in to demand answers. Yet, I held back. Instead, I stood frozen in place, ensnared by an unseen power, a feeling that twisted between terror and a haunting, shameful curiosity. In that fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of something profoundly unsettling in Logan's eyes, a depth that surpassed mere twisted fascination. It was a desperate yearning, piercing through the shadows, targeting me with an intensity that left no room for escape. The secretive transformation. The days dragged on in excruciating agony, and I made every effort to avoid Logan. I had few conversations with my husband, each one teetering like a delicate thread, poised to break at the slightest movement of my eyelids. The flickering screen haunted my thoughts. Logan's piercing gaze burned into the very essence of those images of me. I forced myself to believe that I was repulsed. Yet an insatiable curiosity clawed at my mind, refusing to let go of the haunting thoughts that consumed me. What ignited that electrifying tingling on my skin as he brushed past me in the hallway? What ignited the tremor in my breath when he flashed that smile across the breakfast table, as if the weight of the world had just crashed down upon us? Why did a shard of my essence stir with a haunting sense of flattery? The seductive force loomed ominously, poised to shatter the fragile threads of my reality. Despite knowing its darkness and the inevitable ruin it would bring to my marriage, I found myself drawn to it. On the brink of destruction, it was evident that Logan was venturing into treacherous territory, a realm that went beyond mere curiosity. Yet, the most unsettling truth began to claw at my insides, a yearning to partake in the dangerous game, an existence I thought I knew all too well. Before that fateful evening, I saw myself as a devoted wife, a woman of unyielding steadiness, a figure who prided herself on sound judgment. My name is Madeline. Well, Madeline, now a married woman, is entangled in the complexities of 7 tumultuous years with Robert. At the age of 38, I stood on the precipice of a new chapter, freshly divorced and teetering on the edge of love. My heart wrapped in a shroud of trepidation, Robert lingered in the shadows, a solitary figure set apart from the thrumming chaos around him, steadfast, empathetic, a financial advisor whose calming aura enveloped me, igniting a fierce sense of security amidst the chaos. He had a son from his first marriage, Logan, a young man of 21, when I was thrust into their tumultuous world. In those tumultuous days, Logan was a brooding adolescent, ensnared in the gripping world of video games, utterly indifferent to the chaos of conversation around him. I reached out with a gesture of goodwill, but an unbridgeable chasm of distance lingered between us. He called me Madeline, never uttering the word mom, and that suited me just fine, igniting a fire within me that I couldn't ignore. I never dreamed of searching for a substitute for anyone. For years, everything unfolded in a monotonous haze. Then Logan graduated, departed for college, and I believed that was the conclusion of our story. Until his return, a haunting metamorphosis that sent shivers down my spine. At the age of 25, Logan found himself back in his hometown, a mere 6 months ago, where shadows of the past loomed large and secrets threatened to unravel. Following the devastating loss of his job in the city, Robert was consumed by an unexpected surge of elation. He is meticulously stashing away every penny, a remarkably astute child. I clung to the hope that the change was merely a passing phase, but Logan had morphed into a stranger, a shadow of the person I once knew. He loomed larger now, his presence commanding, radiating a fierce confidence that engulfed the very air around him. He embarked on his fitness journey within the stark, unyielding walls of our home gym. Through the doorway, I would catch tantalizing glimpses of him, each moment charged with an electric tension that left my heart racing. Beads of sweat glistened ominously on his shoulders. I would turn away, a surge of frustration coursing through me for having noticed. And then the little details would come crashing in like a storm. He would haunt our conversations. He would smirk with that infuriating grin as I unleashed my frustration over the neglected dishes piling up in the sink. The tension thickened in the air the instant he stumbled in, catching me in the vulnerable act of changing, a moment charged with unspoken consequences. The heavy fog of regret shrouded his apology, echoing in the silence that followed. A moment lost forever. I attributed it to sheer arrogance, a simmering force that threatened to erupt at any moment. In the days that followed the shocking revelation, I avoided every opportunity to be alone with Logan, my heart racing with anxiety and dread. I walked through a minefield of tension for a whole week, every moment full of unspoken words and unresolved emotions. I ensured that Robert was always within reach. I found myself on the verge of making a decision, grappling with the idea of sharing it with him. But what words could ever capture the depth of my turmoil? Your son was watching the recordings of us, and the weight of that revelation hung heavy in the air. The experience was nothing short of excruciatingly humiliating, unbelievably bizarre. As dusk fell, Robert embarked on a fateful journey for a business trip, the weight of uncertainty heavy on his shoulders. From behind me, Logan's voice, low and measured, cut through the air with a deliberate cadence that sent shivers down my spine. I twisted my fingers, gripping the edge of the sink with a desperate intensity. He loomed in the doorway, arms crossed tightly, his gaze piercing through me with an enigmatic intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "We need to talk," he said, his voice heavy with urgency. The conversation descended into the realm of the forbidden. I braced myself for the sting of rejection. Veiled trepidation. Instead, Logan radiated an eerie calmness that sent shivers down the spine. "I know you saw," he said, his voice low and menacing as he stepped closer. the tension crackling in the air between them. My heart pounded violently in my chest. What did you witness? He wore a cunning grin, a glimmer of mischief dancing in his eyes. We must move now. I should have escaped. He was known as Robert, a name that echoed with mystery and intrigue. Yet, I held back. What is the length of time? I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence. Prolonged and drawn out, his gaze ensnared mine, a fierce intensity igniting the air between us. Your beauty captivates even more fiercely in person. The words writhed beneath my skin, unleashing a searing wave of shame that consumed me. This kind of conduct is utterly unacceptable. I completely shattered. Could it truly be? He took a bold step forward, the tension in the air thickening around him. On that fateful night, your gaze was unyielding, piercing through the darkness as you watched with bated breath. My face blazed with an unbearable intensity, for he was undeniably right. The treacherous game begins, fraught with danger and uncertainty. In the days that followed, Logan intensified the tension to an extreme degree. He would sweep past me in the corridor, a shadow of intensity lurking in his wake. His touch lingered, stretching the moment into an eternity that felt just a heartbeat too long. He would leave his bedroom door ever so slightly ajar, a thin sliver of darkness beckoning the unknown. The harsh glow of his laptop flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows that danced around him in the dim room. In that charged moment, a fleeting instance that felt like an eternity, I caught him watching me from across the dinner table, his foot grazing mine beneath it, igniting a spark that sent shivers down my spine. I was always too slow to escape, and that's the most tragic part of it all. I became painfully aware of my vulnerability whenever we crossed paths, hastily wrapping my robe tighter to shield myself from his lingering gaze as my eyes locked onto him with an intensity that crackled in the air. The dance erupted in a haunting silence, each movement charged with unspoken tension. We stood on the precipice, each daring the other, ready to plunge into the unknown with unwavering resolve. I deluded myself into believing that I was in control. Yet Logan relentlessly stayed 2 steps ahead that fateful night as the shadows closed in around him. Then the tempest unleashed its fury. The abrupt power outage plunged the house into an all-consuming darkness, thick and suffocating, as if the very shadows conspired against the living. Robert was nowhere to be found. The echo of Logan's voice pierced the air, a haunting prelude to the moment his silhouette emerged from the shadows. His voice echoed ominously just behind me, swallowed by the suffocating darkness that pulsed with dread. His unnerving proximity made my skin crawl, compelling me to pull away with a racing heart, a warm whisper that sent shivers racing down my spine. And then, the darkness consumed all, swallowing every glimmer of light. The tempest raged beyond the walls, its howls piercing the night like a vengeful spirit, desperate to breach the barriers that held it at bay. The darkness had consumed the room for nearly an hour, thick and suffocating, as if it were alive, pressing down on every surface with an oppressive weight. Only the sporadic, violent flicker of lightning illuminated the surroundings, casting jagged silhouettes that danced ominously across the surfaces. Logan's presence loomed ominously just behind me in the dimly lit kitchen, an unsettling closeness that sent a chilling shiver racing down my spine. His warmth engulfed me, a fierce heat searing into my back. Overwhelmed by a surge of dread, he whispered again, his voice trembling with urgency. His voice emerged as a fragile whisper, almost consumed by the furious onslaught of the rain's relentless drumming. I inhaled sharply, my fingers tightening around the edge of the counter, a surge of tension coursing through me. Absolutely not, it is nothing short of a raging storm. His soft, low chuckle pierced the air, sending an unwelcome shiver racing down my spine, igniting a sense of dread that clawed at my insides. Traitor. Then I felt the suffocating closeness between us, paralyzing me with fear and shame, sending a jolt of electricity through my body. I pursued this burning desire with fierce determination and unwavering focus. My breath hitched as a surge of conflicted emotions overwhelmed me as he closed the distance between us, just above my hips, igniting a storm of emotions within me. "Logan," I issued my warning, though my voice quaked with urgency. He leaned closer, his words barely a whisper, igniting a turmoil inside me. "Please, I implore you, command me to stop." In a fleeting heartbeat, lightning erupted across the sky, illuminating his face with an electric brilliance. His dark eyes locked onto mine, brimming with an insatiable hunger and a profound understanding that sent shivers down my spine. I slowly parted my lips, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. A heavy silence cloaked the moment, marking the point of no return, where fate hung in the balance. His fingers tightly gripped me, drawing me intensely into his embrace, as though our very existence hinged on it. His heartbeat pounded fiercely against my shoulder, a relentless drum echoing the tension in the air. With a fierce intensity, he whispered, "Look, your longing for my continuation is palpable, yet my body betrays me in this moment of weakness." Yielding to his touch, my skin flared with fire beneath the trail of his hands. The result was far from the desired outcome. I had never imagined myself becoming this kind of woman. That fleeting moment stripped me of my identity as Madeline, the revered wife and stepmother. I was a woman ensnared in the depths of darkness, where the fervent heat simmered just beneath my skin, threatening to erupt at any moment. At that moment, Logan had not yet entered my life as my stepson. He was a man consumed by his longing for me, a desire that had burned fiercely for years. At long last, I found myself on the precipice of surrender, my heart racing as I lost myself in a moment where emotions and regrets tangled in chaos. I stumbled back, my hands gripping the counter behind me for support as panic and disbelief tightened around my chest. The tension between us erupted, leaving me grappling with overwhelming guilt and confusion, filled with an overwhelming intensity and desperate need. I should have felt a wave of remorse wash over me as I sampled whiskey alongside something far more enigmatic. Shame should have consumed me, yet all I felt was the throbbing heartbeat of existence, a relentless force that demanded my attention. For the first time in years, my mind was unshackled from the relentless weight of grocery lists, mortgage payments, and the gnawing anxiety of Antony's late return, a darkness that loomed over me like a storm ready to unleash its fury. My mind was a void, an empty abyss waiting to be filled with chaos. I was engulfed by a tempest of emotions, each one crashing over me with relentless force. The air was thick with tension, a bone-chilling experience that sent shivers down my spine. It was a thrilling descent into the unknown, fraught with peril and uncertainty. Yet, despite the overwhelming dread, I pushed forward, driven by an unyielding resolve. The aftermath that ensued was nothing short of catastrophic. In the aftermath, a suffocating silence descended upon us, heavy with unspoken dread. David was the first to wrench himself away, his breath coming in jagged, uneven gasps. His gaze darted away from mine, filled with an unspoken tension. I stumbled down from the counter, my legs trembling beneath me, my clothes in chaotic disarray. The light erupted back to life, its sudden brilliance piercing and unforgiving. I locked my eyes onto him, piercing through the layers of chaos that had enveloped us since everything spiraled out of control. His expression was an enigma, cloaked in layers of uncertainty and tension. In a heavy silence, he turned sharply on his heel and stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me abandoned in that heart-stopping moment. My lips burn with an electric intensity, my heart pounds like a war drum, and my mind is consumed by a relentless, haunting question that refuses to fade. What have I unleashed upon this world? The web of deception tightens, revealing its sinister layers. Antony returned home the following day, shrouded in a veil of ignorance, oblivious to the storm that awaited him. He pressed his lips to my cheek, his breath a haunting whisper. "I missed you." I forced a smile, mirroring the sentiment, but beneath the surface, a storm brewed. Logan pressed on, his demeanor unyielding, as if the harrowing events had never unfolded. He exchanged sharp jests with his father, hurriedly helped haul in the groceries, and, with a piercing gaze directed at Antony, boldly asked if I desired some coffee, as if he hadn't invaded my soul just a day ago. As though he hadn't torn apart the very fabric of my existence, I avoided every second spent in his presence. I forced myself to believe it was nothing more than a fleeting mistake, a solitary instant of grave misjudgment. 3 nights later, a sudden, insistent knock shattered the stillness of my slumber, jolting me awake with a surge of adrenaline coursing through my veins. Beside me, Antony unleashed a cacophony of thunderous snores, echoing through the stillness of the night. The knock reverberated through the silence, a haunting sound that sent shivers down the spine. The moment I laid eyes on the figure, a jolt of recognition surged through me, and with a surge of divine intervention, I fought my way back from the depths of my slumber. At midnight, the ominous visitor arrived. The faint tapping resonated through the silence, leading me to believe it was merely a mental illusion. But then, it returned, insistent and haunting, shattering the stillness with its ominous presence. Each of the 3 measured taps echoed with a haunting intensity, its cadence unmistakable and laden with foreboding. Antony lay beside me, his form still and serene, ensnared in the clutches of a deep, unyielding slumber. His breath surged, deep and unwavering, a powerful rhythm echoing in the silence. The digital clock, ominously perched on the nightstand, cast an eerie glow, illuminating the time too. 18 men, a haunting reminder of the darkness that enveloped the room. In vivid, blood-red figures, I should have never left the safety of my bed. I should have known better than to open that door. But the moment my eyes fell upon Logan, his low-slung sweatpants clinging to his form, his bare chest illuminated by the haunting glow of the hallway, every protest I had dissolved into an overwhelming hush. "We must converse," he whispered, his voice laced with urgency. My fingers clenched tightly around the doorknob, a surge of adrenaline coursing through me. I have left this world behind. Not at this very moment. His eyes flickered anxiously to Antony's still, vulnerable form before snapping back to me, a storm of emotions brewing beneath the surface. A calculated, knowing smile twisted upon his lips, hinting at secrets untold and a tension that crackled in the air. To what perilous destination was he heading? The treacherous agreement. We gathered in the dimly lit basement, the air thick with tension. Just 10 minutes later, there I stood, cloaked in a robe I had snatched as if it were a fragile shield, while Logan leaned nonchalantly against the washing machine, radiating that infuriating, unwavering confidence. "This cannot happen again," I hissed, my voice trembling, barely above a whisper. Despite the 2 floors that loomed between me and Antony, David tilted his head, a storm of emotions brewing within him. What stands in our way? It is utterly unacceptable, yet it pulsed with an undeniable sense of righteousness. With a surge of determination, he launched himself away from the machine, closing the distance between us in a heartbeat, each stride charged with urgency. Reveal the truth. You too find yourself ensnared by its relentless grip, unable to escape its haunting presence in your thoughts. My treacherous body trembled violently as he traced a finger along my arm, igniting a storm of emotions within me. In the chilling depths of the night, at exactly 2:30, the deceptions bared their fangs, ready to strike. Sorry. The subsequent month surged forward, a chaotic whirlwind of ephemeral moments and suffocating terror. Swift, electrifying pecks ignited in the pantry as Antony reveled in the warmth of his shower, while I recoiled from the table, disturbed by the unspoken tension that clung to the air around us, sending shivers of anticipation coursing through me. It was a moment thick with tension, the kind that hung in the air like a volatile whisper, ready to ignite at any second. Antony's sudden early return shattered the delicate veil of secrecy, exposing us in a dangerously intimate position within the confines of the garage. With each encounter, my desire intensified, leaving me more and more horrified by my choices. That fateful morning, a crushing realization struck me with the force of a thunderstorm. An unspeakable fear gnawed at me as I stared at the calendar, dreading the consequences of my past mistakes. The suffocating anxiety of impending motherhood clawing at my insides. I stared into the bathroom mirror, my reflection hauntingly pale and filled with terror. The pregnancy test from the drugstore sat ominously on the counter, its plastic wrapper crinkling in my trembling grip, a sign of the impending storm within me. It was impossible. It defied all reason. We had been cautious and constantly on guard. The abrupt knock at the door sent a jolt of fear through me. Madeline. Antony's fingers trembled as he dialed the number, the weight of the moment pressing down on him like a storm about to break. The phone rang, each tone echoing in the silence, a countdown to the unknown that lay ahead. "Are you okay in there?" "Absolutely." A sharp gasp escaped my lips as I hastily shoved the test into the depths of my robe's pocket, my heart racing with a mix of fear and anticipation. It felt like an internal struggle. I eagerly awaited the opportunity to take the test as soon as he left for work, my heart pounding with excitement. Those 3 minutes morphed into an agonizing eternity, each second a relentless burden, weighing heavily on my mind. As the second pink line emerged, a wave of shock crashed over me, and my knees gave way, collapsing under the weight of the revelation. The ultimate demand, a moment fraught with tension and urgency. That fateful afternoon, I confronted Logan in the desolate, eerie house. "We have a problem," I hissed, thrusting the positive test into his trembling hands. His eyebrows shot up in shock, a storm of emotions brewing beneath the surface. Then, to my horror, he smiled. "The result is nothing short of perfection." Antony was flawless in every aspect. In every aspect, strangled into silence. Antony would depart, Logan determined, his eyes blazing with fervor. At last, we can break free from the suffocating darkness that has held us captive. I recoiled as though he had struck me with a, "Would you truly expect me to prioritize you over my husband?" His expression darkened, a heavy weight settling upon him. "You have already achieved that monumental feat. Every moment I am granted the privilege to touch your skin ignites a fire within me." The weight of his words crashes into me, a visceral blow that reverberates through my very 3 days are left. Logan's voice trembled with an intensity that belied his calm demeanor as he forcefully tucked the test away into his pocket. "Or I will..." A scenario stripped of triumph. That evening, I watched Antony relish his meal, blissfully ignorant of the cataclysmic explosion that loomed, ready to obliterate his very existence. If I were to unveil this truth to him, he would surely turn his back on me, leaving me in the shadows of despair. The child would grow up in the shadow of a fatherless existence. Our families would confront utter devastation. If I hesitated for even a moment, Logan would unleash our darkest secret upon the world. Antony was destined to unearth the harrowing truth. The consequences would be devastatingly severe. Desperation forged a plan. I have arrived at my fateful conclusion. With a suitcase clutched tightly in my hand, I scrawled a note, leaving my wedding ring behind like a forgotten promise on the kitchen counter, and plunged into the unknown that awaited beyond the door. The tires of my car shattered the silence, crunching over the gravel as I plunged into the desolate highway, a sense of foreboding hanging thick in the air. The flickering glow of streetlights cast ominous shadows that danced menacingly across my windshield. My hands trembled violently against the steering wheel. The back seat was a chaotic jumble, my suitcase wedged in with a frenzied urgency, as if it held the weight of my very existence. I was adrift, consumed by an overwhelming urge to flee. With no destination in sight, the chasm between Logan and me felt insurmountable. I felt as though I had left Antony. I felt as though I had left deeply. I felt as though I had left from the very fabric of life. I had been utterly shattered. The relentless buzz of my phone pierced the silence for the 10th time, each vibration sending a jolt of anxiety through me. I made the fateful decision to ignore it. In an electrifying moment, Anthony's name blazed to life on the screen, casting an ominous glow that sent shivers down the spine. My stomach churned violently. He must have uncovered the note. I let it fade into the abyss of voicemail. The brutal examination of the motel room. I pulled into the roadside motel as the first light of dawn clawed its way across the horizon. A dismal establishment, where the walls are so thin they seem to whisper secrets, and the air is thick with the oppressive stench of mildew that clings to every corner. As the door slammed shut behind me, I collapsed onto the coarse comforter, the weight of the world crashing down around me. My body convulsed with anguished cries. Each enormous heave pierced my ribs with agonizing intensity. I succumbed to fear, outsmart a monstrous creature, and now I found myself carrying a child, a living testament to a secret that could shatter my world, one that might not belong to my husband. Once again, a relentless buzz erupted from my phone, demanding my attention with a shiver-inducing urgency. This moment is filled with words that pulse with urgency. Anthony, Madeline, I urgently need you to call me. Regardless of the challenges that lie ahead, we possess the strength to confront and overcome them. A crushing wave of remorse crashed over me. He was convinced this was a matter of life and death for our relationship. He lingered in a state of blissful ignorance, oblivious to the dark treachery that lurked just beneath the surface, waiting to ensnare him. I cut the connection, plunging into silence as the screen went dark. A thunderous knock echoed through the silence, shattering the stillness of the moment. In an instant, I found myself lost in a deep slumber, unaware of the world around me. The relentless pounding of fists against the motel room door shattered the silence, echoing like a thunderclap in the stillness of the night. Madeline, show yourself now. The echo of Logan's voice reverberated through the air, charged with an intensity that sent shivers down spines. I jolted upright, my heart pounding furiously in my chest. How had he unearthed my location? The relentless pounding grew more ferocious. I can feel your presence lurking within. I crept toward the door, heart pounding in my chest, every nerve on high alert. My gaze pierced through the warped glass of the fisheye lens, a haunting distortion of reality. Logan stood frozen, his disheveled appearance a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within him. His gaze was wild and desperate, a storm of emotions swirling within him. And in his wake, a shadow loomed. Anthony. My blood turned to ice in my veins. I flung the door open, heart racing, barely managing to stop them from waking. The tension hung thick in the air, every second feeling like an eternity. With a thunderous crash, Logan stormed through the door, leading the charge into the heart of the motel. His face blazed with uncontained rage. Could you please share what you were considering? With every step, the weight of the world seemed to lift. Yet the echoes of what was left behind clawed at the edges of the mind. The air crackled with tension, each footfall a defiant declaration of freedom. But the shadows of the past loomed large, threatening to pull back into the chaos. It was a moment suspended in time. Anthony lingered in the shadows, his footsteps echoing with a haunting urgency. Madeline's expression twisted into a haunting mix of bewilderment and an encroaching dread. David spoke of the two of you, his words heavy with unspoken tension. He let out a gasp. His voice trembled, wavering on the brink of despair. The chamber spun violently around me, a chaotic whirlwind of shadows and echoes. It was Logan who had delivered the fateful message to him. I parted my lips, yet an oppressive silence swallowed me whole. What words could I possibly summon? Logan stood before his father, the air thick with tension. His voice dripped with an eerie calmness that sent shivers down the spine. She is anticipating the arrival of the father. It is mine, and I will not let it go. Anthony teetered precariously, his balance faltering as the weight of the moment bore down on him. The intensity of his gaze tore me apart. For how long must we endure this torment? He breathed the name Logan as if it were a fragile secret, hanging in the air like a storm about to break. It has been an eternity. Anthony unleashed a sound that pierced the air, sending shivers down my spine and leaving me utterly bewildered. The sound echoed like a desperate sob mixed with a primal growl. He whirled around, fury igniting within him, and charged out the door, slamming it behind him with a deafening crash. With a thunderous crash, the door slammed shut behind him, sealing his fate with an overwhelming sense of finality. The aftermath that ensued was nothing short of catastrophic. Silence hung heavy in the air, then Logan erupted into a thunderous laugh, echoing through the silence like a storm breaking loose. The sound pierced the air, cold and hollow, reverberating through the oppressive silence like a haunting specter. Indeed, that unfolded with unexpected brilliance. My gaze pierced through the air, locking onto him with an intensity that felt electric. And in that electrifying moment, I finally saw him for who he truly was. The angle of his lips curled with a self-satisfied smirk, a chilling promise of the chaos to come. The glint of calculation burned fiercely in his eyes. Their romance was a tempest, a whirlwind of emotions that clawed at the very fabric of their souls. It was a fierce battle, a struggle that left scars deeper than any affection could heal. The outcome was not love. It was a haunting echo of desire, a dark shadow lurking where light should have flourished. The fight was a fierce battle of skill, and I had been utterly vanquished. The instant of revelation, "You craved this." I released a heavy breath, the weight of the moment crashing down around me. Logan's shoulders lifted in a careless shrug, a flicker of indifference masking the storm brewing within. I craved you with an insatiable hunger. The aftermath was nothing short of devastating collateral damage. The fragments collided with a thunderous intensity, finally falling into a precarious alignment. The footage was haunting. The allure is undeniable. He clutched the pregnancy test tightly in his trembling hands. "You meticulously plotted my demise." He shifted his voice, descending into a whisper that crackled with tension. "Under no circumstances, Madeline, should you enter this situation, you stepped into this space with your eyes wide open, fully conscious of the storm that awaited. The most tragic aspect was yet to come." He was undeniably right. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air, a palpable tension that crackled like electricity. Every heartbeat echoed in the silence. A countdown to the inevitable. Choices loomed like shadows, dark and foreboding, each one a path leading to an uncertain fate. The gravity of the decision pressed down, suffocating yet exhilarating, as the mind raced through the possibilities, each more daunting than the last. In that brief moment, everything was transformed. The world awaited the decision that would permanently change the path of history. I gripped my purse with a fierce desperation. Logan's hand shot out like a lightning bolt, gripping my wrist with an iron hold. "Where do you think your path leads you?" Unleashed. "I have been banished from your presence." He was ready for the ultimate transformation. His smirk evaporated, replaced by a shadow of dread. "Independence may slip through your fingers. Just out of reach?" I locked my gaze onto his eyes, a fierce intensity igniting between us. "Watch me closely." As I burst through the door, I stormed out of the motel. The treachery lingers, and Logan haunts my every step. The first light of dawn broke, casting an eerie stillness over the landscape, enveloping it in a haunting solitude. The sun erupted into the sky, casting a fierce glow over the humble diner that clung to the outskirts of town. The fluorescent lights buzzed ominously, their irritable energy crackling in the air like a warning siren. I sat in a tattered vinyl booth, my fingers gripping a coffee cup that had long since surrendered its warmth, the chill seeping into my bones. The waitress stood at the edge of the bustling diner, her eyes scanning the room with a mix of determination and trepidation. Each order she took felt like a race against time, the clatter of dishes and the murmur of conversations swirling around her like a tempest. She moved with purpose, her heart pounding in her chest, aware that every moment could shift the balance of her day. The weight of unspoken stories hung in the air, and she was the silent witness to the lives unfolding before her. Each table a world of its own, filled with secrets and unfulfilled dreams. A woman with weary eyes, her name tag declaring her as Grace, had replenished it 3 times, each time in silence, the air thick with unspoken tension. "Are you truly all right, my dear?" "Finally," she asked, her hands trembling as they grazed the fabric of her apron, a storm of emotions brewing within her. I parted my lips, ready to unleash a web of deceit. But instead, an overwhelming surge of tears crashed over me. I stared at our fingers, entwined in a desperate embrace. Her hands, powerful and battle-worn, contrasted sharply with mine, which still held the ghostly mark of the wedding ring that had once graced my finger. I exposed my uncertainties, enveloping my essence in a sea of uncertainty. Grace's fingers clenched with fierce determination. Today heralds the onset of chaos and revelation, that mystery, a chilling nightmare in the unforgiving world of law. 2 weeks later, the divorce papers for Robert arrived, shattering the fragile peace that had settled over the household. The silence was deafening. The phone never rang. There will be absolutely no room for negotiation. A solitary manila envelope loomed ominously at the threshold of my new apartment, its presence heavy with unspoken secrets. The cramped studio was precariously situated above a laundromat, saturated with the sharp scent of detergent and an ever-present, haunting sense of regret. I braced myself for an explosion of rage within the documents, a tempest of expectations, and a seething undercurrent of resentment. In its place, an oppressive silence enveloped me, thick and suffocating. Robert had surrendered everything without a fight the house. The cars, the savings, each item slipping through his fingers like sand, leaving behind a haunting emptiness. He walked away, each step heavy with unspoken tension. That pain sliced through the heart with a ferocity unmatched by any argument, leaving a wound that throbbed with raw intensity, a sinister intruder. It was in the tumultuous 7th month of my pregnancy when Logan stormed back into my life, igniting a whirlwind of emotions and unresolved tension. I had landed a position at a charming little bookstore, a place where secrets whispered between the pages and shadows danced in the corners. My expanding belly was a formidable barrier to the higher shelves, but it enveloped me in an unexpected wave of comfort amidst the chaos. The infant often positioned itself within the confines of the womb, a silent struggle for space and existence in the dark, enveloping world that surrounded it, a relentless reverberation of my failures. On a storm-laden Tuesday, the bell above the door rang out with an eerie chime, echoing through the tense silence. There he stood, water pouring off him, drenching the welcome mat beneath his feet. "You look stunning while pregnant," he declared, his voice heavy with unspoken emotions, as if the years had vanished in an instant. My hands shot out, desperately shielding my stomach, a primal instinct kicking in as the tension in the air thickened. "Depart immediately." Logan ignored my presence entirely, wandering through the aisles with an unsettling nonchalance, each step leaving behind a trail of damp footprints that seemed to whisper secrets of his indifference. My thoughts were consumed by the baby, an overwhelming presence that clawed at my mind. "There is no baby where you're concerned," I hissed, my voice barely above a whisper, each word laced with urgency as I fought to keep my boss oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. He drew closer, his breath a searing whisper against my ear, igniting a fire within me. A legal framework looms before me, compelling me to confront the harrowing decision of undergoing a DNA test. The haunting saga of the hospital, on the fateful night when labor began, an overwhelming solitude engulfed me. Lamar's classes have been abruptly canceled. The bag remains untouched, empty, a haunting reminder of what could have been. The partner appears to be lacking in enthusiasm. The partner is measuring the relentless waves of pain. Isolated, I struggled to draw in air, the pain consuming me as the taxi hurtled forward. Praying the driver remained unaware of the warm, life-altering fluid pooling in his back seat. Then came the torment. blazing brilliance. The haunting whispers of voices compelled a relentless progression. Afterwards, my beloved daughter Sophie was present. She was flawless in every aspect. Through Logan's piercing gaze, the weight of the ultimate decision hung in the air. Thick with tension, David stormed into the hospital, his lawyer by his side, tension crackling in the air. He demanded the transfer of partial custody, or I would unleash a relentless legal battle for full control. The nurse stood frozen by the door, her heart racing as she cradled my sleeping infant. The weight of the moment heavy in the air, I tore my eyes away from my daughter's innocent face, landing instead on the infuriatingly smug expression that twisted Logan's features, igniting a storm of emotions within me. In that moment, I reached my fateful conclusion. The audacious plan for freedom unfolds. 3 days later, I vanished from sight. The novel has a captivating new title, New Beginnings, fraught with uncertainty and the weight of the past. Loom on the horizon, no forwarding address could be found. Shrouded in mystery and uncertainty, the bookstore owner, a gentle yet resilient elderly woman who had become my only ally in a world that felt increasingly isolating, extended her hand in a moment fraught with unspoken tension. "A sister in Oregon?" she whispered urgently, her fingers brushing against mine as she thrust the cash into my palm, the weight of her words heavy with unspoken tension. "She promises to ensure your organization is meticulous." As the bus pulled away, I clutched my daughter fiercely, whispering fervent promises into her delicate, peach fuzz hair, my heart pounding with a mix of love and dread. Truth stands unchallenged, a formidable force that commands respect. Stop the escape. It was just the two of us, alone in the vast expanse. A letter, heavy with unspoken words, lingered in the shadows, forever unsent. "Dear Robert, I am deeply sorry. Our daughter bears the haunting echo of your smile. Her father will forever be a shadow in her life, a stranger etched in the fabric of her existence, all due to my choices. Some transgressions linger in the shadows, forever beyond the reach of forgiveness. I continue to fight with all my strength. Goodbye." And so it comes to a harrowing end. What desperate measures would you have resorted to if you found yourself in Madeline's harrowing predicament? Would you have dared to face the consequences? Or would you have made the desperate choice to escape instead? We urge you to share your thoughts and feelings in the comments section below. And if this tale has already sent shockwaves through your mind, prepare yourself for next week's harrowing revelation of a wife who stumbled upon the dark secret of her husband's concealed family.